Suffering Podcast.
Figuring out the world when you're young may be the hardest it's ever been in human history. The sea of information will paralyze your mind and freeze your compass. Opinion-based media fires continuous ammunition, hoping to change your core values. One side will say this is the way, while the other side will pick that perspective apart, tearing it to pieces. Never agreeing on the points that are correct, only highlighting the opposition and the fight. How can two sets of human beings be so polar opposite, living on this floating orb in the universe? So we look to longevity. We look to a steady rock to anchor ourselves. Some are fortunate enough to find faith and place their identity in their substantial belief, while others, they'll hold on and marry their hearts to the wrong ideology. I'm Kevin Donaldson, always here with Mike Falaise, and welcome to Season 6 of the Suffering Podcast. If you're a fan of overcoming adversity and overcoming suffering, then we're for you, because that's what we do here, and that's the stories that we highlight. So do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, please comment, ring the bell so you can get notified of all of our new content, and now you can join. And of course, follow us on all social media so you can find out what we're up to when we're up to it. Man, I've been waiting for this episode forever, and those of you watching right now are going to see me swell with a little bit of pride throughout this episode, because tonight I get to have my youngest son, Jimmy Donaldson, in here to talk about the suffering of youth ministry. I'm going to tell you what, Jimmy has found his faith, dove in with both feet, and I couldn't be a more proud dad. Jimmy, thank you so much for coming in.
You're welcome.
Well, you really didn't have a choice. I just sort of said, Jimmy, you're going to record on November 26th.
Yeah.
Before we get into anything else, so a big shout out to our marquee sponsor. That's Toyota of Hackensack. We don't trust anybody as police. We certainly don't trust anybody as podcasters, but we do trust the guys over at Toyota Hackensack. So if you're looking for a car, go to toyotahackensack.com. Let them find you a car, but also tell them the Suffering Podcast sent you. So Jimmy, each week we take a question from our audience. You're not allowed to watch my podcast, so you don't know what we're talking about, but I take a question from my audience every week. This question comes from Snowshoes and Snowballs. What do you think is the most important quality in a teacher or a coach? You play sports, you go to school, you know the good ones, you know the bad ones. So what do you think are some qualities that make a good teacher or a coach?
I think it's mostly that passion that they have to teach or coach, because a lot of times they're going to have bad classes or they're going to have bad teams, and that passion that they have or had is going to help them get through those times and keep up with their teaching or coaching, and just keep them going through that with what they want to do.
So one of the things I always like to do with young people is I like to get them involved in the coaching world, because I believe it makes you a better athlete, okay, when you see it from the other side. I wish there was an opportunity for you to get into the position of a teacher. Okay, because if you got into the position of a teacher, you might look at their class from a different angle. So for me, I've coached football for a long time. I taught high school before I was a cop. I always say that I left teaching high school because it got too dangerous. And that's why I became a cop. But in reality, I watched this whole thing become a job, whether it's coaching or whether it's teaching. I watched the fire in their eyes just disappear, and it just becomes a job. They start disliking it. They start talking poorly about the kids, whether they're in the classroom or on the field, and they lose all passion, just like you say. The funny thing is when you're in front of young people, anywhere from, kindergarten all the way through senior in high school, one of the things that the people across from you, the people who you're trying to instruct, one of the things that they see is they can feel when you don't have it in you. They can feel that stuff. And if that ever becomes a job, or you ever feel that you're irreplaceable, that is the time you need to step down and give somebody else an opportunity, somebody that has that drive, that has that power, passion, somebody that has a little bit of idealism and still believes that the system can work, whether it's coaching or whether it's teaching. It's a hard thing to step down from when that's all you know, but I know a lot of good coaches, I know a lot of good teachers, but I also know a lot of bad coaches and bad teachers. And unfortunately, in the world we live in, too many of the bad ones get through. But, listen, we do our best. We do our best in order to try to make it work. So snowshoes and snowballs, thank you for sending that question in. Keep sending in your questions, and we will try to get them on the air. So, Jimmy, listen, I talk you up constantly. I just, the Enemies Project recently aired. I even talked about your TikTok, which we're going to get into later in the show. I swell with pride when I talk about Patrick, your brother. But Patrick's been a guest on the show for twice. You've had to sit back and wait because I always wanted you to be a little bit more older, a little bit more mature in order to get in here. Um, the one question I always ask you, and I want to ask you this on air as well. You see what I do. You see me traveling around, going on all these different shows. I want to know, before we get into you, what you think about that.
It's kind of gotten just normal. Like, it happens often, so it's not like it's devastating every time it happens, but I do miss, like, when I was 3 to 7 or whatever, when you would always be around and we would, like, go to the park or whatever, go to Krausers. That would be a lot of fun.
You're,
And now
you're breaking my heart, buddy. You're breaking my heart.
and now you're away a lot of times, but it also helps me just have gratitude for the times that you are around.
Dude, you're going to make me cancel everything so I can spend more time and take you to Krausers and stuff. But it's true, right? So, the time I get to spend with you is less than it was, but it also makes that small amount of time a little bit more valuable, because one of the things, whatever I do professionally, I never wanted to fall back on you. I never wanted to impact your life anywhere. When the Jubilee thing came out, I know all your friends were saying it. And I was always afraid that you were going to get some blowback from that. Did you get any blowback at all?
It wasn't really blowback, as it was like my friends were checking out your account and they were like, "Whoa, your dad has 100,000 followers on Instagram." So it was pretty cool for me.
Well, we're going to get you there, buddy, with your TikTok. So, Jimmy, why don't you tell our audience? I talk a lot about you, so our audience is familiar with you. They know who you are. They kind of know some of the stuff that you do. Why don't you give our audience a little background on you when you were younger? Because you're 13 now and you've lived all this long life. Why don't you give us a background of what you like?
In my free time, I like to play video games, hang out with my friends, or go for bike rides. I really like trying to go to new places. I like that adventure. And I can also relate to that in a biblical view, because God says in heaven there will be adventure. So that is something that I feel not a lot of people know, and something to work towards to get to heaven.
The great thing I like about the way you're growing up is you'll grab your bike, you'll go out for a ride. So you have the best of both worlds, right? So you're not lopsided one side or the other. I see a lot of kids, they sit in the basement all day, they play video games, they'll be rocking and rolling for 8 to 10 hours in front of that computer screen, and they never stop. You have a real good balance when it comes to that. You're on your phone too much, which I give you crap about all the time, but you do have a good balance. I see you go out on your bike, go out with your friends, go trail riding or go over one of your friends' house and hang out. And I appreciate that, because that portion of your life needs balance. Like, you can't be gone all the time, nor can you be on video games all the time. Do you ever think that with one or the other, you become a little lopsided?
It's just like certain days. It's not like split half and half in a day. Some days I just want to play video games all day, but I can't. And then sometimes I want to hang out with my friends all day, but I can't. But then there's also those days where I have responsibilities to do and I can't do either. And there's also days where I can do both. So
Tell me some of your responsibilities.
chores like vacuuming, helping out with the gym, doing laundry. Sometimes I help my brother mow the lawn. Um, and
Oh man, it sounds
yeah,
like I work you like a dog. Not only am I not home all the time, but I'm also working you like a dog. People are going to really look poorly on me, bud. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. But those chores, I do the same thing with your brother. The one thing about me is I treat you and your brother equal. I believe I do. You're different people, so it's molded to you. But I treat you and your brother equally. I expect certain things from you, because that work ethic gets built into you. And I got to tell you, so you have probably one of the best work ethics I've ever seen. Uh, you know what I'm talking about with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you see something, you want something, you go for it. And it's been that way for a very long time. It's probably been that way since you've been about 10 years old. Do you know where that comes from? Are you ready to enhance your skills and provide the best care to those who need it the most? I'm Kevin Donaldson.
I'm Sherry Alsop. Our trauma-informed training is here to help, and we've been traveling across the country delivering this essential need to departments and organizations of every size, shape, and makeup.
We come to you with on-site training so you don't have to worry about travel or scheduling conflicts.
This isn't just a class, it's an interactive experience. You'll learn directly from subject matter experts who teach from a victim's point of view, putting you in the shoes of those who have experienced trauma.
This approach allows you to understand trauma on a deeper level and to better serve the individuals you work with.
We'll guide you through new interview techniques that prioritize a victim-centered approach, ensuring safety and empathy in every conversation.
And for those of you in law enforcement or other fields, our training includes post-credits, giving you the extra added value and recognition for your commitment to professional growth.
We offer references upon request to show just how effective our training can be.
Don't miss the opportunity to improve your understanding of trauma and make a real difference in the lives of those you serve. Get in touch with us today by going to sherryalsop.com and let us bring trauma-informed training to your organization.
Together, we can make a lasting impact.
Well, I've always tried to be, I could say, stronger or faster, smarter, all these things, because I've never really had good genetics if we're thinking of it as a strong part. So I wanted to be like all my friends who could go hang out, eat unhealthy stuff, and still be, looking good. So I worked hard, and every time I miss a workout or miss a run or whatever, I usually feel devastated. When my alarm doesn't go off, I sleep through it. Mom will always text me like it's okay because she knows that I would be sad about it.
You can't be too hard on yourself because you work. Listen, if you miss 10% of the time, I'm not saying it's good to miss 10% of the time, but if you miss 10% of the time and 90% of the time that you're good, that's a pretty good balance for a 13-year-old. Okay, so what do you do in your free time besides video games?
Besides school, I would either sit down and relax, and at night I have my routine of holiness, as I can call it. I read my Bible, do my video. Some days I do a purple book that you can look at. You could try to find it. And it really helps me spiritually. And I also pray every morning and night. I have a group chat on TikTok with my friends that we try to pray in every morning and night, but sometimes we forget. It's getting better.
Well, I've watched you just walking around, and I've watched you inspire your friends around you. I've watched you inspire them. You had a kid come up to you in school saying, "Hey, listen, my grandfather's sick. Could you say a prayer for him?" So that type of thing that you're doing, how strong you are to your faith, it really separates you from the crowd, but it makes it in a good way, But it also makes you a leader. Do you understand that? All right? Because listen, I know you're ultra smart. You're like a math whiz. You can do math that I can't even do, and I'm 51 years old. So I know you work super hard. You come home, you do your homework, and then, football season just ended, which I got to congratulate you. Champions, undefeated. You won it all this year. So let's talk about football for a second. I remember in the beginning of the season, and I take you to practice most nights, and you said, "Dad, I want to work hard, and I want to get on the starting team." And what happened?
So 2 of the starting linemen got injured, and I've been working hard all season. I got good recommendations from coaches, and I started for a few games. Even in the championship, when one of our players, the other team was playing dirty, kid was punching him in the stomach. When one of our players had to come out, I went in too, and I felt really good that I played in the championship.
Now, when you stepped on the field as a seventh grader, when you're playing against predominantly eighth graders, you step on the field as a seventh grader, knowing that you worked so hard in order to get there. You put in all those hours, all those early hours in the morning. What was the feeling that you had inside when you got the call? You got the tap on the shoulder and the nod to go in.
I was really happy. I was full of excitement that my hard work has paid off because I've been working hard all season, all summer. I've been doing all these things that I thought, honestly, that I was just going to be a good player for seventh grade. And I didn't think I was going to be a varsity player, but it ended up that my goal was achieved.
You know, the victories that you have on the field, in the athletic field, they don't happen when the scoreboard starts and the ref blows the whistle. They happen in the darkness when nobody's watching, when nobody's keeping track. The extra work that you're doing, the running, the workouts, all these things, that's where victory happens. That's where games are won. Games are won, yes, they're won on the field, but the preparation for that win comes far off of the field. So I have to give you a lot of credit for that. Now, going back, you know, you're a young man who is incredibly tied into your faith, and it didn't always start out that way. You know, growing up, and that's a lot of that's my fault. The conversations that I had with your mother when it came to religion, I'm like, they'll find their way. They'll find their way. I wasn't a religious person a while back. I didn't go to church. I didn't really have any faith basis in order to bring you in. So in your younger years, if you can recall, your other friends are going to CCD, they're going to church, they're doing all this stuff. Did you ever have them talk to you about it?
Not really. Now, when I think about it, when I think back on it now, I'm not proud of it, but I like to think of us as being lukewarm back then. We said we were Christian, didn't go to church. We didn't really do anything that people would think we were Christian. And back then, I never really had any friends that were saying that too, because lukewarm Christians are a very challenging part of society. It's a very hard part to get past being lukewarm, and a lot of people don't know that they are that. But when you're not fully living for Christ and you're not excited to tell people the good news that Jesus is coming back and that he will save you, all you have to do is believe in him. You're lukewarm and you're not fully gone. You can ask God, you can pray to God all the time, and that's the amazing thing about when Jesus died on the cross. He died on the cross and he connected us with God.
So prior to you finding any type of faith, did you ever have any type of interest in it?
Not really. I mean, I remember this one time I was sitting on the couch and I was
Probably sitting on the toilet. Let's be honest. You're probably sitting on the toilet because you and your brother, you're gonna ruin my bank account with toilet paper expenses. But anyway.
And I was just thinking to myself, is God real? And at that time, I did believe that he was real because I was thinking, how could the universe and all of this be created by two particles of dust that magically exploded? That makes zero sense. I don't get how people think that. They magically exploded, and from this explosion, things just got created. Random planets that are huge. It makes no sense.
But the people who believe that life just spontaneously happened, the people who are not spiritually based, they believe life just happened one day, just magically. They'll believe that, or they'll believe that the solar system or our universe was started from a big bang, and they have no idea why the bang happened. They'll believe that, but they won't believe there is no evidence to any of that stuff. But they won't believe in something spiritual. I mean, it's a little bit of hypocrisy. Would you agree?
People believe that there was nothing to start, and it's kind of hard to wrap your head around that there used to be nothing, because what is nothing? It's nothing. And then two particles of dust spawned in, blew up, and created a mass amount of planets and rocks and stuff that just keep on going. That does not sound like two particles of dust. There's two particles of dust in the air right now. They're not blowing up.
Yet. Hopefully not. So there was a time I had just started this podcast, and I had this guy on. His name was Adam Burt, retired professional hockey player, chaplain for the New York Jets. I had him down in our house. He affected me so deeply that, and I wanted to be supportive of my guests, so I go to church. Now, full transparency, I drag you and your brother to church with me because you guys were my get out of jail free card. I'm going to tell you right now, you guys, if this stuff got weird, I was going to say, hey, listen, one of my boys went to the bathroom in their pants and we got to go. That's exactly how I thought about it. So do you remember the first time I brought you and your brother to church?
Yeah, I just can't think of it because everything that hasn't been a good thing has kind of been wiped. So I'm guessing that I didn't have a good experience, and it was a while ago too.
It was close to 5 years ago. It was close to 5 years ago that I drug you in there. I can tell you exactly where we sat. I could tell you, I remember looking over at Patrick going, what the hell is this? Because, our church there's hands in the air, there's all sorts of stuff. And then what would happen every week, and I don't know whether you recall this or not, I would go back trying to replicate a feeling that I had that first day that I went there, because what you couldn't see is, because I had a mask on because we were still in the midst of COVID, is I was crying. All right. And I didn't want you guys to see that I was crying. My lip was quivering. I'm trying my best to hold it in. And I made sure that you guys were standing off to my right, and I made sure not to make eye contact with you or see you at all. But I was feeling something. And subsequently, I would go back trying to replicate that feeling, and I was able to replicate that feeling that I had. But I remember asking both you and your brother, hey, you guys want to come to church? And that's it. That was the only question I asked. All right. Do you remember me asking you those questions?
Yeah, I do. And most days it would be like, no, I want to play video games, or no, I want to sleep in, because I didn't really understand how big going to church was, learning about God, because we live in a society where people do their own things. They do stuff that has no relation to where they're going to end up. In 80, 90 years, if you get that, everything's going to be gone. And people don't understand that because they think that their pleasure right now is going to be better than their pleasure for eternity.
So the pleasure of sleeping in is better than the hardship of getting up, which isn't even that early. Our church starts at 10 a.m. It's not even that early. They think the pleasure of sleeping in outweighs the benefits that you get from having a community-based, a faith family, in other words. So the sequence of events is very clear in my mind. It's probably one of my most proud moments as a father. All right. So I would ask you guys every week, if you guys want to go to church. Nah, that's okay. That's okay. Patrick comes to me, your brother. He comes to me and he says, during the week, and he says, hey, Dad, you going to church on Sunday? I said, of course I'm going to church on Sunday. He says, do you mind if I come with you? And I said, that would be awesome. And Patrick and I would go to church every Sunday. He loved going to youth. He loved sitting in with and listening to our worship leader, Kim, sing. And he sat next to me, and he just started absorbing all this stuff. And I would ask you on our way there, right as we're leaving, hey, Jim, you want to come to church with us? No, I want to play video games. I want to go sleep in. Until one day that changed. But what changed in you where you decided you wanted to come to church?
I don't really know. I guess the Holy Spirit just took over, and you can kind of think of it as being like brainwashed. Now, I don't want to make it sound bad or anything, but he will drag your heart into that place so that you can feel the feeling of the Lord, how it can fill you up and fill that God-shaped hole in your heart.
I remember when you came to me. You came to me in the same way that Patrick came to me. He said, hey, Dad, you going to church this weekend? I said, of course. And you said, do you mind if I come with you? And I said, that would be awesome. And then you step into church. Do you remember your first day back into church? What happened? Because something happened for you to get this close to God.
Yeah, at first it wasn't really anything, but
But what affects you more? Is
it,
it the word or the singing?
the singing, I used to like to sing way more than I do now. I used to like it so much, and I loved the voice of our worship leader, Kim. But the first few times we went in there, it wasn't really like anything. But I heard of all these people going to church and how it benefited them so much. I just wanted to keep going every couple of weeks. Some weeks I would skip because I wanted to sleep in or play video games. It's the usual stuff. And some weeks I went until I finally felt the Holy Spirit fill me up inside, and I was happy and joyful to go. And then I started going every week, and I started doing my videos. I asked for a Bible. Everything started to turn around.
Do you remember what you were thinking? Because there's some people in church that get filled with that spirit and their hands go in the air. And we're talking probably you're 10 when you started going. Do you remember looking at those people with their hands in the air? Do you remember what was going through your head the first time you saw that?
First time I saw it, I was like, wow, that must be embarrassing. Imagine that was me. I couldn't do that. And now I want the courage to do that. Sometimes it just doesn't come out of me to do it, but I'm thinking of it at a way different perspective than I did before.
It's crazy how it hits you. And then down the line, when you started going every day and you just kept getting drawn back in. I watched you in real time, and it was a pleasure. I got to tell you right now, it was a pleasure to watch you get drawn back in. What clicked for you in church?
At first, I just loved the music. I loved hearing those worship songs. I loved the way it made me happy inside. And then there was Pastor Adam's preachings. I loved the way that he took what could become a boring preaching, and he turned it into something that can relate with all of our lives, with all of sports.
Well, he's also an athlete too, which helps. An athlete is it's going to relate to another athlete. You're an athlete, okay? Having somebody who has no experience in athletics, it's really hard to connect to them. All right. So how did Pastor Adam connect to you in that way?
He was talking about his NHL career and how sometimes he was so banged up, but the Lord stitched him back together. And that really connected to me because I was thinking that Christians and Catholics and all these people were just a bunch of basically weak people. I don't want to sound mean by that or anything, and then I saw this guy who had this fire for the Lord, and he was big and strong. He had this amazing NHL career. He played in the longest NHL game of all time, and it was amazing for me.
And then I watched you. There was an incident where occasionally Pastor Adam will tell everybody to bow their heads, and if you'd like to receive Jesus, raise your hand. And he does it with everybody's eyes closed so nobody can see. And I stand in the back. I stand in the back because I'm taking care of a bunch of stuff. And I look over at you. And the next thing I know, I see your hand in the air, and I'm like, and I actually took a picture of it. You don't know this, but I took a picture of it because I couldn't wait to run up and show Adam after service. I'm like, look what happened. Look what you did. Look what you did. And it was a very, very proud dad moment to see my boy who only wanted to stay home and play video games. Now he's finding his path. But the funny thing about you is our church has a children's ministry, which when you first started going, you could have been in, and now you could be in the youth, which is 12 and above. Why don't you go into those?
That stuff never really clicked with me because it told the soft part about God's story. And God put that feeling inside of me that wasn't the whole story of him. I'm going to quote a bit of scripture here and pull out my Bible, my greatest weapon.
That's the weapon that'll save you every single time.
I'm going to go to Exodus chapter 15, verse 3. It says, "The Lord is a man of war. The Lord is his name." It's saying that God isn't all butterflies and rainbows. It's saying that God is a man of war. And I have another verse in Revelation.
So you're going from one side of the Bible to the other, and they're two vastly different things in there. So what do you got in Revelations?
Revelation chapter 19 verses 11 through 16. It starts with the title "The Rider on a White Horse," and it states a few things, but I'm just going to read the first verse, verse 11. It says, "Then I saw heaven opened, and behold, a white horse. The one sitting on it is called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he judges and makes war." And it goes on to talk about how angels will return on white horses, and it'll be armies, and they'll be armed with fine linen, white and pure. And there's so many meanings behind this that can interpret into something else. That's what I love about the Bible. You can interpret it in any way that you want, and that's the Holy Spirit moving through you, so it will never be wrong unless you are a false prophet and the serpent is deceiving you.
When they say make war, I want you to dissect that for a second. Do you think that's the violence that we know as war, or do you think that's something else?
It's the act of God. He is going to wipe all sin off of earth. He says anything sinful of your body, if your left arm causes you sin, chop it off and throw it away. And that is quoted directly from scripture. I forget the verse. It's in one of my videos.
But it's a little bit more than that. It's a war of the soul. Okay? Wars are fought on many different battles. Okay? And I know this because I go out and do these stupid debate shows. Okay? That's a war. It's a war of ideology. It's a war of faith. It's bringing people in saying, hey, listen, salvation is right here. All you got to do is take one step forward. I'll take the rest of the steps. So a war is not always physical fighting, guns and stuff like that. A war could be a war of ideas, a war of faith, a war of the heart, a war of the soul. So it doesn't always have to be something physical. So, that's an often quoted verse from Revelations. And behold, on that horse rode death, and that's when the world ends, Jesus comes again, and all that stuff here. When that time comes, you better prepare yourself. That's kind of what that means. The hour is near, the day is coming. It might not happen in our lifetime, but it's eventually going to happen. But so you're starting to take this walk into faith, right? You're starting to take this walk. You're going deeper and deeper. And I watch you when the sermons are going on. I watch you. You're so deeply invested in what is being said. Throughout your journey, throughout your 3-year journey of getting from there to here, was there ever a time of doubt, a time of saying, I don't know, I might be losing it. I'm just not getting it?
A lot. And that's not necessarily Satan that is putting that doubt in my heart. A lot of times it's God, because he wants to test your faith and test whether you are going to be his faithful and humble servant. Test whether you are worthy of hearing the words.
Explain to me what some of that doubt looks like in you.
It's mostly just in my heart, thinking, being sad and thinking, I'm doing all of these things, wasting all of this time, or using all of this time towards something that I can't see, something that I can feel. I can't feel them right now, but I can't see. And that's difficult for a lot of people. That is probably the main argument on why God isn't real. But the thing is, in those times where you can feel him, you know that he is real.
Expressing those moments of doubt in your life, even being a religious young man, okay? Expressing those moments of doubt. What do you think that does if you were to go out there and talk to one of your friends and tell them about your love of God, but also tell them that there are moments when I feel a little distant from God? What do you think that does to them?
A lot of times they'll focus on only the bad part. They won't focus on the part where they said, I feel fulfilled and happy, all of these emotions. They'll focus on the part where I said, a lot of times I feel distant from God. A lot of times I feel like not doing what I do anymore. And people will really lock onto that. And when I say people, I'm saying that a lot. I'm not quoting to anybody specifically, but they'll really lock onto that and completely blank out the good part about it. And God says that there is going to be a lot of struggles. He says being a Christian is going to be way harder than being a wretched sinner.
You know why they do that, right? You know why people will lock on to the bad things? Because whatever doubt you have, whatever distance you feel, they feel that too, and they want to be consoled by the fact that you're thinking the way that they're thinking. And it makes them feel not so alone in this world. You know, when what they don't realize is if you have that walk with God and that walk with Jesus, you are never alone. If you look at that poem Footsteps, you know, you see two sets of footprints in the sand, and then there are times during your most difficult times you'll see one set of footprints, and at the end of the journey, God says, you know, you ask God, hey, listen, where were you during my most difficult times? I see one set of footprint. When times were good, I see you walking alongside of me, and God says, that's the times when I carried you. You know, so but the people will lock on to those negative things because it makes them feel better about the way they think. You know, because the way you think is hard, all right? It's not an easy life to have that faith, to try to live by that faith. And I'm sure there's times you fall. I'm sure there's times that you sin, because everybody does. We're all sinners. Is there any one particular time in your life that you felt that, oh, wow, I sinned, I feel kind of bad?
Yeah, there's a lot of times where that happens, and it's some of the small sins, like thou shalt not lie. But when you feel that conviction in your heart that you never used to feel when you used to do these things, that is good, actually. Now, it's not good to keep lying and keep sinning, but that conviction in your heart is you recognizing that you've done something bad.
You know, and that recognition that there is that disconnect, that's what makes us human, because none of us are perfect. I'm certainly not perfect. Um, you know, there might have been a time when you looked at me as perfect, but as you get older, you start to see my humanity come through. And I think telling people those things, telling people those times when you did wrong and confessing that stuff, that's what humanizes you to everybody else. They're like, wow, you know what? Jimmy has the same moments of doubt that I have. He'll lie, or he'll say something, or he'll do something that's not so nice, but then he immediately tries to repent for it and offer up an apology for it. That could be me. So you inspire people when that happens. So out of your friends here, knowing that the people around you, your walk with faith, how has it inspired them?
They see me doing these videos or praying in the morning to my group chat, and I'll just politely ask. I'm not trying to push anything.
You can't. It doesn't work.
You can't, but I'll ask, does anybody want to pray today? And recently, actually in the past 2 days, I haven't been praying. They have. And that's what really makes me feel good. But also back to what you said before, where there's all that doubt and all that sin, people don't understand that that is because we did that. Adam and Eve, they wanted a little distance from God. They wanted their own space. They wanted to eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and God gave them that space. And then they sinned, and all of these corrupt things happened. We were once living with God.
And look what happened to them. They instantly regretted. So one of the stories that I always like from Genesis with the Adam and Eve story was when they're off hiding in the bushes and they cover their naked bodies, and do you know what the first thing that God said when he went down to Eden?
I don't know the exact quote, but it's basically, why are you hiding from me?
He said, well, it'll translate to, where are you? I can't see you, which means that you're out of my field of vision. All right. And that's the original sin. That's the original sin that everybody talks about. And that's what, when Jesus did come, he was there to wipe away that original sin and be that sacrificial lamb. Is there any one story in your passages or anything that you've read so far that just really inspires you to do better?
the first sin of man inspires me for that. And it's not the sin in the Garden of Eden. It happened all the way back up in heaven when Lucifer rebelled against God. And this is heavily quoted from Pastor Philip Anthony Mitchell, but so Lucifer somehow got a glimpse of how beautiful he was because he was known as the most beautiful angel. He somehow got a glimpse of how beautiful he was, and then he went around telling all the other angels that he was going to be better than God. That was the first sin, pride. And then him and 1/3 of the angels rebelled against God. That was the second sin, rebellion. And God said, I actually have the Bible verse.
You know, that was the perfection, okay? And there was a movie not that long ago. Well, actually, it was a long time, probably 50-year-old movie. It's got Dudley Moore and somebody else in it. And Dudley Moore is some guy, and the devil is around him. And he explains his fall from heaven this way. He puts Dudley Moore up on a mailbox, and he goes, "This is what it was like in heaven. God's sitting up on his throne, and he's making us all go around him, telling him how great he is." Well, I was tired of it. That's what he says. I was tired of it, and I didn't want him, so I tried to knock him off the throne. Didn't work so well. So go ahead and read your passage.
So it's coming out of Revelation chapter 12, verse 9. It reads, "And the great dragon was thrown down, that ancient serpent, who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. He was thrown down to the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him." And it's saying that the devil was cast out of heaven. He was thrown down from his place in heaven, one of God's top angels, and him and 1/3 of the angels were thrown down. Those are the demons that are on earth today. Those are the demons that are scary today, but we shouldn't really be scared of them when we know that the battle is already won. And they call the devil, Satan, they call him the deceiver because he is basically a professional. He's higher than a professional at making bad things seem so great.
So if you further on down in your studies, you're gonna want to read a book called Paradise Lost by John Milton. And every modern concept that we have of Satan and the devil comes from Paradise Lost. All right, so when Lucifer was cast out of heaven and thrown down, so you know how when we think about heaven, we look up, and we think about hell, we look down. Well, that comes from Paradise Lost, because what had happened was Lucifer got thrown right to the earth, and he planted right in the center of the earth. And while he was there, he was frozen in a river at his waist by his own tears. That was the water. Because the concept of hell is just being absent from God. That's hell. All right. Right now, some people could say, and there's good logic to this, that we sitting where we are right now are in hell because we are removed from the presence of God. All right. So what is your concept of hell? As a 13-year-old reading the Bible as much as you, what is your concept of hell?
So it's very interesting that you say that because I have a very good understanding of hell, in my opinion. Hell is everything you can want and more except God. The devil will give you everything you could ever want, but you will be distant from God for eternity. And heaven is nothing to push aside. Heaven is amazing. It is said that the streets will be made out of shining gold. There's all these amazing things that I haven't even learned about heaven yet. But it's the fact that hell isn't that burning pit of fire. It is being distant from God, which will be worse than that burning pit of fire because it is for eternity. It's not for 100 years until you've ended your punishment. It's for eternity. It's forever. You get one life on earth, and that is your chance to prove yourself to God.
That's our training ground. That's our training camp, right? So this weird thing happened. And Tom Flynn, who's sitting right in the control room, he bore witness to this. I'm getting off an airplane. Tom's picking me up from the airport, and I'm going through my social media because I'm on my phone more than you. I don't know why I tell you to get off your phone. I'm on my phone all the time. And I'm going through TikTok, and all of a sudden, you pop up. and you do this little talk on this video, and it's about forgiveness. It was such a beautiful talk, and I dare say it was a sermon on forgiveness, why we should forgive people, what's the value of forgiving people who have done you wrong. Those are the people you need to forgive first. And I'm watching this, and I turn to Tom, I go, what the hell is this? And I'm looking at him like he never even told me he had a TikTok page and he's doing these videos. It was so impactful that I threw it out to Pastor Adam. I threw it out, and Pastor Adam then put it out to the whole church staff. He put it out to every nation's, because every nation's church has so many different locations. He threw it out to all these pastors, and he said, this is one of my guys. When you got that validation, because I remember I came home and I told you, I showed it to your mom, and I go, did you see this? This is incredible. What did that feel like to get some validation? Because you did it very, very secretively. When somebody said, hey, wow, this is amazing. What did that feel like?
Well, I did it secretively because I didn't want that. I didn't want that pride for it, because I knew it well that you should do good works not for pride, but that pride that did enter my heart was because of all of that.
Social media will put pride in your heart all day long.
But the thing is, it'll put pride in your heart, and then it'll hit you with a baseball bat at the knees. It'll knock you down.
Isn't that the truth? So when I showed this to Pastor Adam, it was just amazing. He mentions it all the time in church, and I know there's a bunch of people in the congregation that watch your videos. Which, before we go any further, why don't you give out your TikTok? Because I want to give it out a couple times. I want people to take a look at what you're doing. Why don't you give it out?
So my TikTok is Jesus is King. A lot of times it doesn't pop up. So it's at Jesus _is_King 8537, I believe.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure it's that.
We're going to put a nice little link to it underneath your name, just to make sure we drive people there. So what did Pastor Adam have a private conversation with you about that video?
He pulled me aside when I was helping out for some of the stuff with church, and he said, wow, that was amazing. And then not too long later, he asked me if I wanted to do the Purple Book with him, and I started doing that. And it was just an amazing book that breaks down Bible verses, gives you information about the Bible, gives you information about that book in the Bible, and it's just an amazing thing to grow closer to God and grow a bigger understanding of God.
So do you know what the purpose of the Purple Book is? The purpose of the Purple Book is your introduction to the ministry. All right, so you can understand the Bible in a certain way that you can then deliver that message to other people. So have you delivered messages from that Purple Book to anybody in particular?
Not really from the Purple Book.
Or from the Bible?
Yeah, from the Bible. Sometimes, actually a lot of times, my friends ask me some certain questions because they know certain things about me, that I'm a Christian. And actually yesterday, my friend asked me if 6'7", a common meme, is a sin, because the creator of it, he wears demonic masks and he's all of that stuff. And I had an answer to it because of all this knowledge that I've had. And the answer to it is kind of, because if you say it with no intention behind it, just as a funny little joke, it doesn't mean anything. If you say it with demonic intentions behind it, it does mean something, and then it is a sin. But there's also meanings behind it that can relate to biblical views. I actually did a video on it not too long ago, and I put it in Psalm 67, and I had a pretty good preaching on it.
So you're doing these videos, you're preaching the word. What does that do for you? I know you're doing it just to get it out. Does it help you work through things, or do you want to deliver a message to people, somebody who might want to hear it?
Well, God says, Jesus' last commandment was, go out and preach the gospel. Go tell everybody about the good news that I have done this great thing, that the battle is won. Everybody is now free as long as they believe in me. So I do it because he told me to do that. He called me to do that. And I also do it to save people. I do it so that people would know what it's like. And another reason is these videos that I do at night, they give me new Bible verses and I break it down. Sometimes when I'm in the middle of my video, I'll come up with new stuff in my head that I didn't even think about before the video. And it'll give me a really good understanding of the Bible, and a lot of times it'll give me a new verse, a new understanding of the Bible, and I really like it.
It helps you work through some certain things. It helps you work through stuff in your own head when you do stuff like that. And in a minute, what I want to do, if you're up for it, is I want to show everybody, I want to show our audience what exactly you do on TikTok and how you do it. So would you be interested in throwing out pick a random verse?
Bible roulette.
Yeah, Bible roulette. We'll do a roulette. You pick out any verse, you read it, and then we can go over it, and then we can talk about it. We can come up with our own theories. Because here's the thing. Well, clearly there are wrong interpretations of it, people who bastardize the Bible. But the fact that you're reading it and trying to comprehend and understand it, that's a good thing. That's a good thing, because take faith out of Christianity. Just take it out 100%. All the lessons that you're learning in there are good lessons. Be a good person, forgive, give grace, give gratitude, don't kill, don't steal, honor your father and your mother. All these really, really good lessons that you're learning in there. So if you take faith out of it, you take spirituality out of it, it's still teaching you how to be a good person. So we want to do one. Why don't you pick out any verse you want. Doesn't matter.
See.
Do a roulette.
I'll flip out.
Flip out one.
Right here.
There you go.
And we'll go verse 12. Then they came near and said before the king concerning the injunction, O king, did you not sign an injunction that anyone who makes petition to any god or man within 30 days, except to you, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions? The king answered and said, that thing stands fast according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which cannot be revoked.
So what do you think about that? I have my ideas of what that is. I believe it's a parable. It's a parable. There are a lot of false gods out there, and a lot of people work hard towards getting favor with whatever god that they worship. And nothing's as sad as succeeding at the wrong thing. So if you're going to give your life to these other gods, you will be cast into the lions. If you're going to worship any other false gods, if you look at the revolt of golden calf during the great Exodus with Moses and his brother Aaron, he was up on Mount Sinai getting the 10 Commandments, and when he came down, they were all worshiping a golden calf. Well, they were punished. They were all punished. They wandered around in the desert for 40 years. They succeeded at the wrong thing. So they didn't physically get cast into the lions, but they had to walk around in the desert in 40 years. And I've been in the desert. It's hot. It's not fun. But if you give your love to the one true God, you will avoid eternal damnation.
I think this verse is talking about that idea that I've said before is deceiving. And deceiving is a very powerful thing. It's somebody is screaming out, "O king, did you not sign an injunction?" And deceiving like that will happen a lot. There's this one audio on TikTok. I'm on TikTok a lot. I hear it a lot. And it's some guy crying out, "Why didn't you tell me that Jesus was the answer?" And that is the one thing I do not want to hear. Because if somebody were to actually hear that, it would hurt them. That they weren't spreading the gospel to somebody and they completely ruined somebody because they didn't tell them that Jesus was the one and only way. There's a lot of people, there's this one person I was arguing with in a comment section, and then somebody else jumped in and they said, "I believe in Jesus. And I believe that he was a prophet. I'm Muslim." And I said, well, you don't believe in Jesus because Jesus says, "I am he." He says he is the one and only God. He is the true God. All these other gods, Buddha and whatever, they're all in their tombs. Jesus died and rose 3 days later from the dead.
Do you know there's more evidence of the crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus Christ as there are Roman emperors of the day?
Yeah, there's a lot of evidence, and people ask for evidence quite often, and they don't understand that there is evidence.
There is ample evidence that this is the way. So if somebody your age came to you, first of all, before I get there, has anybody ever made fun of you for your faith?
Not really made fun of. I've had some people that have tried to argue me on my faith, but there's just too much evidence and supporting details.
What would they say?
They would be born into a religion that isn't Christianity or Catholicism, and they would say that Jesus isn't real. He can't be real. Like, the earth was created from the Big Bang, or Buddha is real. And the thing is, that can't be true. It's just not, it doesn't make sense that these people or nothing created everything and they're being worshipped for it.
As long as you hold strong, you're in a war. Just like you read out of Revelations, you personally are in a war. It's not a physical war. It's not a war of violence. It's a war of the soul. You have to be a strong warrior. You know, every warrior has wounds. You are going to get wounded from time to time. People are going to make fun of you. People are going to look poorly on you. But if you have strong enough faith, that is the test. But I will tell you this, and hopefully this gives you a little bit of encouragement. When you are on the right path, when you are heading in the right direction, the devil will throw things in front of you time and time again to try to get you off that path, because the devil is not stupid. The devil knows if you continue down this path, you're going to do something amazing, you're going to change the world, and you're going to do something great. And he does not want that. He wants to keep you relying on him for taking all the pleasures of life and taking anything out of life that could mean something eternally. And that's how you know you are doing something right. So the more people who come up and contradict you or try to argue that point, that's when you know you're doing something correct. So if you were to sit in front of one of your friends right now, and one of your friends, you see him getting that pull, the same way you got that pull, what would you say to them in order to drive them to the right path?
I would just say, man, keep going. God is calling you to do this thing, and even if you don't feel like it's the right thing, try it out. Just try it out. He will save you. Keep going on this path that you are going in. It is the right path, and the devil is going to try to cut you off short. He's going to try to put that block right in front of your foot as soon as you start running. He is going to try to deceive you early on, but I always tell them, if you ever need anything, ask me. I know a lot. The Lord has blessed me with all of this knowledge. The Lord has blessed me with this work ethic, this mind, and I feel like I'm very mature for a 13-year-old. I have a very developed...
You have a developed understanding of how the word goes.
Exactly.
So if you go, let's fast forward. I don't mean to wish your life away. Do you see this as a path you're looking to take professionally one day?
Yeah, I would love to become a pastor and preach the word in front of an amazing big crowd. People I look up to are Bryce Crawford, Cliff. Sorry, I can't pronounce his last name.
Yeah, I know. Cliff is an amazing... I can't remember his last name, but yeah, he does. You see him on video all the time.
And also Philip Anthony Mitchell, too. I quote a lot of his stuff in my videos. I quoted one here. And I just love what he does because he talks about the raw, hard truth. And he pastors at 2819 Church. But it is just amazing what these people are doing, how they have overcome sin, how they have learned through God how to live their life to the fullest. And if you look at these people, they're happy. They are living these lives of true faith, and they're very happy because people think that if you live for God, everything's going to be boring, but these people are happy.
You know what I really love about that guy, Cliff? And again, I'll have to get his last name. I know who you're talking about. You know what I really love about him is he goes in front of the people who are the biggest non-believers in the world. And he goes in unafraid. He's ready to strap on that spiritual armor and fight that war, just like you said in Revelations. And he goes in there with no hesitation. He's in there. He'll go in there, you know, with his knowledge, with his Bible, and his Bible is his weapon. His Bible is his ammunition in order to contradict whatever anybody says. I've never heard him get stumped. Never once. I'm sure there's times that he has, but then that just means he gets to go back to the drawing board and figure out why he got stumped so it doesn't happen again. So, Jimmy, listen, we're coming to the end of this thing here. And listen, I think you have an amazing grasp from the Bible. I hope you keep going. Just like you said, I'm going to give you the same encouragement that you give other people who are getting pulled to their faith. Keep going, because you are on a path. I think you have a destiny. I think you have a voice, and you have an incredible understanding of Scripture. Why don't you give out your TikTok one more time?
My TikTok is Jesus is King. The profile picture will be a picture of me in football gear. It is at Jesus.is.King 8357, I believe.
8357, and we'll put that up there. So listen, Jimmy, I certainly appreciate you coming in here, and you're willing to talk about this stuff. You're fighting that war. You're unafraid. But there has been some suffering along the way of you finding your faith. And to me, that suffering, that doubt is suffering. If those little bits and pieces of suffering don't teach you anything, it is a completely wasted opportunity. So your youth ministry, your suffering that's gone along with it, had to teach you a lesson. What do you think it's taught you?
It's taught me how to cope with a lot of serious things in life. And this is outside of a biblical view. This is outside of a Christian view. These stumps in my way, this deceiving in my way, has taught me how to deal with a lot of other things that are going to try to deceive me off from what I want to try to do in life. Or even if I'm trying to hang out with my friends and there's something else trying to deceive me. I don't know an example right now, but it's just teaching me how to go in that right direction that I want to go in.
Well, think of it in terms like this, right? So you eat very healthy, right? You work out all the time. And I know some of your friends don't eat healthy. They don't work out all the time. How good would it feel for you to go to 7-Eleven and have a tasty cake?
It would feel really good. But then again, doing this stuff has taught me to resist that. And you and Mom are a very big part in helping with this. But even before all of this, I was taught that pushing that stuff away will give you a very high reward in the end. This summer, I worked hard to just look as cut up as I can, because why not? I thought I could. One of my friends, I remember it, so I had a little belly on me. Not really, but, I didn't have bulking abs. And one of my friends was like, I bet you can't get a six-pack. And I was like, okay. And I did. And bulking up for football. I still have it a little. Not to brag, maybe a little.
Watch that pride. The journey that you're on and where you're going, and it's such a joy. As a father, I gotta tell you, it's such a joy to watch you just blossom into this area. I'm just so proud of you, man, and I can't thank you enough for coming in here and talking about it. So listen, Jim, you're always. I want to have you back here in 5 years when you have your own church and you're preaching the gospel and you're doing your thing, and all these people that you're saving and bringing to Christ. You got to promise me you're going to come back in. All right, pal. Thank you so much for coming in. I appreciate you. And that's going to do it for this episode of the Suffering Podcast, the Suffering of Youth Ministry with Jimmy Donaldson. Let's think about all the stuff that we learned. Life is definitely an adventure. Faith is probably the biggest form of magic I've ever seen. There will always be times of doubt. Do good, not for pride, but for goodness sake. But most importantly, out of the mouths of babes, Jimmy Donaldson, comes the truth. And that's going to do it for this episode. Don't forget to go to popple.com, put in the code TSP20 for a 20% discount on your digital business card. Follow us on all social media. That's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, OnlyFans. Follow me at Real Kevin Donaldson, and of course, follow the Suffering Podcast. We'll see you on the next episode.